Welcome to online classes. Welcome to Komandur Group of Schools. From the previous sessions, in 8th class biology, we are seeing the first unit, what is science. Let us recapitulate some of the points of the first chapter. In the first chapter, we have been discussing and seeing, demonstrating many things. That is, what is science? Science is a process of thinking. Science is a tool for searching the truth in the nature. Science is an organized study of the knowledge of nature. Like this, many exam definitions we have come across. Not only this, we have seen why we want science. In this perspective, there are two types of sciences. One is observational science and other one is experimentation science. Under observational science, some of the examples in the textbook we have quoted and we have seen, that is, the ecologists observe the territorial behavior of bluebirds and climatologists observes the weather by shifting the data from the weather balloons. The astrophysicists take the photographs of distant galaxies, like this, so on. And under experimental science, that a chemist performs a chemical reaction of a substance at different temperatures, etc. like this in the experimental science. So both, when you go for either observation or experimentation, we will get the knowledge of science. So if you want to become a good scientist or a science reader or a science student, so see that your observation skills and experimentation skills improve by seeing or observing around our surroundings. Coming to the next topic, that is, why we want science. This is being observed in individual perspective and as well as societal perspective. In individual perspective, it is mainly based on the scientists. The scientist will have the intention or the desire or the need to observe or to perform an experiment for his own pleasure, and as well as for achieving the great joy in discovering or inventing something. Coming under societal perspective, we have number of examples, because the nation or a society is being devoting many of the resources for the scientists to perform the experiments. Why they are being devoting these resources? Because for the upliftment of or betterment of the society or the life of the people in the society. So some of the examples, that a chemist make trials or develop new chemical substances with potential technological applications, or physicists developing new phenomena like superconductivity, or the plant scientists or agriculturalists seeking strains or species of fruiting plants for crops, or ultimately working to increase the agricultural output that nutritionally and literally enriches nations. So, this type of knowledge may spur economic development of the nation. Even the earth scientists, they are being continuously doing the experiments to know the resources, natural resources, maybe like petroleum or natural gas or minerals or precious stones underneath our earth's crust. This all help in making our economy in a high levels or our economic development. This is to understand the societal perspective of why we want science. And science and change. So I am being describing or explaining now what we have seen in the previous classes. Definition of science, why the science is useful, in what ways and how we can learn, and what's the use of science in individually and society, and then continuous experiments of the scientists. We have been gathering much information, thereby we will get the changes in the scientific concepts. So maybe finding out the new ideas or disproving the old ones by the experiments, by the scientists. So definitely we can see science and change. In this view, in the words of Karl Popper, a scientist, said that science is a history of corrected mistakes. And even Albert Einstein also said that his fellow Einstein every year retracts what he wrote the year before. So, like this, the science is been going on changing from one concept to another concept, or more will be adding to the knowledge. Previous class, I have shown some experiments also to understand the scientific method, to understand how the scientists are performing the experiments and what methods they are been following. The method the scientists are following is nothing but scientific method. Scientific method consists of 5 steps: asking and verifying the investigation, making a hypothesis, plan an experiment, conduct an experiment, and 5th step is drawing the conclusions. In the previous session, I have shown an experiment of Arvind's. Arvind has a investigation. I plan to investigate that he has taken the bean seeds and he want to know in which type of soil they grow better. And he made a hypothesis that the bean seeds will grow only in the potting soil. After planning, conducting the experiment and drawing the conclusion, what he came to know is that the bean seeds can grow well in both the potting soil and sandy soil. So, thinking is different. When we do experiment, by drawing the conclusion, we may get the same result or it may disprove. So, he plans again for conducting the experiment further, investigating further. So, like this, even the scientists will be going on doing the experiments. So, like that, how the scientists work and reveals the secrets of nature by experiments, we'll have observed with few experiments in the lesson. Using science process skills. Under this, when the scientists try to find an answer to a question or do an experiment, they are using thinking tools called process skills. Whenever you speak, listen, read or write or think, we have to use our brain, and we are using this as process skills. To understand this, in the textbook, they have given few experiments and to make us understand how we are using the process skills. First one, Arun plans to investigate that when he went to a sea beach, he collected some of the seashells and he gathered them and started observing them. There are different types of sizes and shapes of shells, seashells he collected. So he arranged them, he organized them and started sorting them out into different sizes of and different shapes of. Thereby, he has been using the process skill, that is observe, categorize and as well as classify them. So, he has used this process skills of different through this experiment. Another one as given here to understand the process skill, that is Priyanka. The Priyanka plans to investigate that how the rocks are being made into and how they get size and shape when they undergo changes. So she used the process skill and conducted an experiment in the home itself or in our whatever we have. So she has taken a glass jar and collected 1 or 2 stones, and she even taken the mass means the weight of the stones. She noted it and then she placed these stones into a jar, and in the jar she has taken the sand and poured some water. For a week days she's been daily shaking the bottle, glass jar up and down. Every day. Every day this repeatedly she is doing the action. What to observe? To observe how the size and the shape of the rock changes. Because in the natural process, the weathering is the process which we are understanding here, or we are getting through this experiment, that through flow of air, through flow of water, and with the friction of sand or vibrations underneath the earth, the rock slowly undergoes the change. So that she wants to observe through this experiment. The Priyanka is being daily lifting the jar and shaking the jar with sand and water in it. Thereby what happened? The two rocks which she has placed already in the jar started undergoing friction or rubbing with the sand and the water in the jar. After 1 week, she has removed the stones, rock from the jar and observed again the mass. Definitely there will be some change, because these two rocks are being undergoing the friction or rubbing process, and we are relating this same to weathering process in the nature, thereby the shape and size of the rock changes. So the mass of the rock after 1 week, after this experiment, definitely will have some change. They may be reduced. The mass of the rock has been reduced. So she has planned, she has gone through the process skill, observing, gathering the data, and as well as analyzing the data, and as well as she has drawn the conclusions from this, that through friction process or through vibration process, the rocks undergo changes. And Suhas is another boy who wants to plan for another investigation. His bedroom light was not lighting properly. So he started thinking. What I said in the beginning, thinking tools, that is either by speaking or listening or writing or thinking, they are called as process skills. So he got a doubt. Why this light is not properly lit in my room? What may be the problem? So he started thinking, and he got the idea why the circuit, why maybe the switch is not working, or maybe the wire is not properly connected. So he wants to make a model and started doing the experiment. So he has collected some of the materials like batteries, wires and light, some thumbtacks and paper pin or paper clip like this, and started making a circuit. When he connected the wires through batteries and thumbtacks and as well as paper clip, the light has started glowing. So by using a model, by preparing a model also, we can understand science better. So this gives the first-hand experience of our knowledge. So what the Suhas came to know by doing this experiment? That is nothing but if there is any improper connection or wire displacement, thereby the bulb will not glow. So maybe a switch problem in his house or in his bedroom. So that's why he wanted to make a model and wants to verify. So some process skills he came to understand, like almost using a model and as well as predicting whether the bulb will glow or not. Like this, stepwise he has gone through the experiment, and successfully he completed the experiment. What experiments I said just now, all you can see in the clippings, coming clippings, as in the form of audio visual experiments.
Investigation on seashells by Arun. Arun visits a beach out of his interest. He likes to collect some seashells which look alike and also of different sizes and shape. Use of process skills. He observes the shells that are collected and compares their size, shape and color. Then he classifies them into groups according to their shapes. Process skills. Observe. Use the senses to learn about objects and events. Compare. Recognize the characteristics of things or events to find out how they appear, same or different. Classify. Group or arrange objects or events in categories based on specific characteristics. Investigation on measurements by Priyanka. Priyanka has a doubt that how would a rock undergoes changes in its shape and size. She plans an experiment to find out whether rubbing the sand against a rock will cause the rock to change its size and shape. Use of process skills. Priyanka collects 4 rocks and measures their masses. She takes a jar and places the 4 rocks in a jar along with sand and water. Then she records the weight of the rocks for a week, every day by shaking them. Based on the analysis of the data, she concluded that rocks break when sand is rubbed against them. Hence, there is a change in the initial weight. Process skills. Measure. Compare and attribute an object such as length or capacity to a unit of measure such as gram, centimeter or liter. Gather, record, display and interpret data. Gather data by making observations that will be useful for inferences or predictions. Record data by writing down the observations in a table, graph or notebook. Display data by making tables, charts or graphs. Interpret data by drawing conclusions about what the data shows. Example 3. Investigation on use of a model by Suhas. Suhas has a doubt that how a light switch works in his bedroom. To verify this, he uses the required materials like batteries, a bulb holder, thumbtacks and a paper clip. Use of process skills. He uses a model consisting of switch and wires. He connects the bulb, wires and batteries to make the bulb glow. He infers that switch interrupts the flow of electricity and turns on the light. Hence, Suhas' model proves his prediction and inference. Process skills. Use of a model. Make a representation to help you understand an idea, an object or an event such as how something works. Predict. Form an idea of an expected outcome based on observations or experience. Infer. Use logical reasoning to explain the events and draw conclusions based on the observations.
We'll see now the safety in science, that is in the lab. During the investigations, either maybe scientists or we, the students, when we are in the lab, we have to follow some rules. Yesterday also I have discussed and today also I am saying the same, but with some more points. When we are entering into the lab, first we have to be clean and as well as we have to think ahead. What we have to think when we are entering into the lab, what we are going to learn, what we are going to see and what we are going to observe. This we have to first keep in our mind. Maybe today we are going to see an experiment, maybe any color change in the experiment or measurement of temperature in the thermometer or any chemical reaction in the lab or any observation of a specimen in the lab, like this so on. So we have to keep that in the mind and we have to enter into the lab. Then be neat in the lab. You see that your place, working area should be neat and yourself also should be neat. You have to wash hands properly. And those who are performing the experiment, if they have loose hair, the hair has to be pulled up. And if they have long sleeves, the sleeves has to be rolled up also. Because they should not interfere when we are doing the experiment. Or it may lead to any damage or error in the experiment. Or it may go wrong. So this care also we have to take. Next, oofs. If you should spill or break something or put that aside, first inform your teacher. Either anything has spilled or anything has been broken, you say that, you be careful, and as well as you inform the teacher. Watch your eyes. If an experiment is an smoke evolving one, thereby you have to wear the safety goggles or specs, at least plain specs we have to wear, and you must be little bit far away from the experiment. This type of care, and don't rubbing the eyes, because in the lab we are handling the chemicals. Next, don't taste or eat until your teacher says. They are chemicals, they may affect you. So, we should not eat anything when we enter into the lab. Next, protect yourself from the shocks. When the experiments of electrical appliances or conducting electricity experiments, you see that don't unplug the one by just pushing the cord out. It may give sparks. Thereby, the experiment may affect, or it may lead to shock to you. Or it may become short circuit also in the lab. So you must be careful. Next, keep it clean. After the experiment, you see that the area is being cleaned, and whatever the equipment we have used, like measuring jars or beakers or thermometers or burettes or pipettes, this has to be cleaned, rinsed properly with the distilled water. So not plain water or tap water. We use in the lab the distilled water, which does not react with any. The ions are being separated in the water. Such type of water is called as distilled process, by distillation process, and you have seen this process in the previous classes also. That is in the 6th class science you got this topic. So like this, distilled water is being used in the lab. When we enter into the lab, we have to usually wear cotton dresses, and as well as an impressive white coat, lab coat we have to wear. So, these precautionary steps, if we take, thereby we can easily perform the experiments in the lab. So, if you get a chance of doing the experiments in the lab, I hope you all follow this type of rules. Next one, that as scientists undergo or go through all this type of care and rules and regulations, thereby the experiments will become definitely successful. And the scientist's work here reveals the beauty of the nature. So the scientists in the lab are being continuously inventing or discovering something. So they are being revealing the secrets of or beauty of the nature. The earth revolves around the sun. We already know, even before the discovery of heliocentric theory by Copernicus. All the objects fall down towards the earth even before the Isaac Newton's gravitational force discovery. The meaning behind that was those people's thought beyond the common man in identifying the problems. So, these are happening in the nature. The way we think and the way we observe is in a special manner or in a unique way. This special and unique way sprout the ideas in the minds of scientists only. So, we give a special place for the scientists who think differently and as well as in a unique manner. So that's why we will get the information or inventions and discoveries from this type of people. And in the discovering or invention of things, there is a sequential order. The scientist follows a sequential order as we have seen the scientific method in the previous sessions. It consists of 5 steps. One is investigation, making hypothesis, plan an experiment, conduct an experiment and draw the conclusions. So this stepwise method is a sequential method of discovering the things. You also can improve this type of thinking. See your mother how she cooks any item in a sequential order. If she is preparing a sweet or if she is preparing a sambar or if she is preparing something else, how she has been following the adding of the ingredients. If you observe, you get a sequential order definitely. Thereby the outcome of that, whatever she is been making, will be in a perfect condition. If you go for a cycle repair shop, you observe the mechanic, how he repairs a cycle. He will also, even though he is an illiterate, he will also follow a sequential order. Like when we go in this order in a particular stepwise manner, then only it is possible for a proper result. So you think, you start developing this type of habit of thinking what you are observing in the nature and what you want to do with the help of either teacher's guidance or parents' help. So you have to list out what the problem is. Suppose you have identified a problem. Example, the bulb is not lit in the room properly. Make a hypothesis. What's the hypothesis is? Maybe the bulb is defilament or fuse failure or a switch problem or wire problem. So you have some hypothesis. What is hypothesis? In the previous sessions also I said whatever the possible answer we have, that itself is a hypothesis. Now collect the information. Collect all whatever you want apparatus for doing this defect, where the defect is, why the bulb is not glowing. So collect the materials like screwdriver or a wooden scale or an insulation tape on a table, a chair or a blade, like all this. Collect the information. Then you go for data analysis. Arrange the data and what the information you have to for conducting the experiment, arrange them. Then go for experimentation. That is, suppose your filament is not proper in the bulb. So the bulb is almost fused out. That bulb will not glow. You have to bring another bulb. So you have better go for another making of new bulb. Or if there is a fuse problem, you have to connect the fuse wire, again make the bulb to glow. So like this, in a stepwise manner, if you go, or if you go in a sequential order, then we will rectify a problem. Thereby we will get a solution for the problem. This is the manner how even the simple things which are going in our surroundings, if you think them properly and in a proper manner, if you go, definitely we will get the result. At the end of this session, you are going to get a worksheet of writing the parts of a flower. Just brush yourself about the knowledge of what the parts of the flower are, which you have learned in the 7th class. And the picture on your mobiles or in your phones, you see what the parts are being given there and think and write them. Not only this, you are going to get a word puzzle of parts of a flower and some clues are there across and as well as down. And what the words you have to write in a word bank also has been given in the puzzle. Ponder over, brood over or think over and write these 2 puzzles which is given in this session. Thank you.